Hey guys, it's Julia. So today's video is going to be my eyeshadow palette collection and declutter video. I have been waiting to film this for you guys for so long. I've accumulated so many eyeshadow palettes since my last collection video, so I'm really excited to show you guys what I have. Just as a light disclosure, this is not meant in any way to brag or show off. I just like seeing what other people have in their collections. Eyeshadow palette collection videos are kind of my favorite thing to watch on YouTube. I just love seeing all the stuff that everyone has, and eyeshadow palettes are pretty much my favorite makeup to buy. Just wanted to show you guys my collection and do a light declutter. So it's not going to be one of those huge declutters where I get like 50% of my makeup products out of my collection. But everything I am decluttering will be on sale in my Poshmark closet, so if you're looking to buy any of these makeup products, they're all lightly used, have them sanitized, and they will be at a good discounted price. So if you're interested in any of the makeup products I am decluttering, I will link them down below. They're on sale in my Poshmark closet. But everything else, I'm just going to go through the stuff, explain to you why I like it or why I'm getting rid of it, and yeah, let's get right into this because I feel like it's going to be an extremely long video. And one more disclosure, I am a little bit sick right now, so please excuse the fact that my throat is a little bit scratchy and sore. If my voice seems a little nasally, that's why. Yeah, so let's get right into my eyeshadow palette collection and declutter. Alright, so I'm going to go by brand. I think that'll be a lot quicker and just easier to organize everything. So first off, I'm going to start with Morphe. I have 3 eyeshadow palettes from Morphe. So the first one that I have is the Morphe Jaclyn Hill palette. And this is basically my favorite palette in my entire collection. You guys know how much I love this palette. I talk about it all the time here on my channel. And here are the colors. Obviously you get some nice colors down here. They're very bright. I love this purple here, and then the blues, just gorgeous. But you also have a nice array of warm tone neutrals, and I think it's a very versatile palette. I love taking this traveling. This palette basically has everything I could possibly ever need in it, so I take this traveling. I use this all the time. This is my favorite palette in my entire collection. Basically, the only thing that could come close to this in my collection would be my Anastasia Modern Renaissance or maybe my Pat McGrath palette. But this is an amazing quality. The mattes are very blendable. The shimmers are just absolutely beautiful and apply so beautifully. So this is my favorite palette. It's only $38 and for 35 shades. So it's a really good deal. And I think Jaclyn just did a really good job with this palette. This is going to be in my 2017 favorites if that's not already up. So yeah, love this palette so much. And there is no way that I'm ever decluttering this because no, this is my ride or die palette. Alright, next I have my Morphe 35O palette. This is the original 35O in the kind of like plastic black packaging. I used to have a lot more of these Morphe like Pro palettes in this black packaging. I had the 35C, which was like a colorful palette. I had the 35W, and I had the original Jaclyn Hill Favorites palettes. I did end up decluttering those just because I wasn't getting a lot of use out of them, but this one I always reach for. Here are the colors. At first glance, it looks like a very warm toned palette, but honestly, if you cover up the oranges in here, you just have a lot of really nice neutral browns, and I think it's such a versatile palette. These shadows are really good quality for the price. This is $22.50, I believe, for 35 shades, so less than $1 per pan. The shades are huge and they're really good quality. I think the mattes are very blendable. They have a good amount of pigment to them, and then the shimmers are out of this world. I actually took the liberty of naming each shadow. Like, I wrote in pencil a name that I gave each shadow just as a way to like use it more often. I thought if I named the shadows, it would be a little bit easier to reach for more often, and it definitely did work. If you're just starting off in makeup, Morphe's palettes are pretty much the first thing I'd recommend to you because you have so many colors in here, very inexpensive, and I think they're really amazing quality. I know a lot of people like to hate on Morphe, but they genuinely do have good quality. I'm not saying this because I have a code. I don't have a code. I'm not affiliated with them in any way. I just really love Morphe's products, and I think this is an amazing palette, definitely a staple in my collection. Alright, and then the last Morphe palette that I have is the Morphe 25B palette. This is available now in Ulta. So if you're wanting this palette, you can pick it up. It's $18 for 25 shades. So again, a really good deal. I like the plastic packaging on this one. It feels nice and sturdy. It doesn't feel like super cheapy. Obviously, this is a very neutral palette. I did buy it for these like burgundy berry shades down here, and I think it's really beautiful for that. So if you're wanting to create a nice fall look, definitely go for this one. Again, I think this is a really great starter palette because you have a lot of neutral browns in here. So if you don't have a lot of makeup in your collection, I'd say go for this one because it's only $18. So it's a good place to start. Shadows in here are very pigmented and blendable. You have a nice array of like warm tone browns, cool tone browns, neutral browns, basically everything you would want to create a nice neutral look. I actually use this most often to do my nose contour. These 3 cool brown shades here are amazing for doing that. So if I'm wanting to contour my nose with a powder product, I will go for one of these shades here. Other than that, the shadows in here are really amazing. They just work so well. I am a huge fan of Morphe's products. I'm not biased in any way. I don't have a code for them. I just really like their products. So this is a really good palette, and I'm definitely keeping this as well. Next up is a brand I only have one product from. This is BH Cosmetics, and I have the Carly Bible Deluxe Edition palette. I am a huge fan of Carly Bible. I think everything she does is amazing, and she's just such a compassionate, beautiful person. So I really want to support her, and I picked up this palette, and I really do love this palette so much. Obviously, this is filled with a lot of like nice light neutral shades, so if you're wanting a good natural makeup look, I'd always reach for this one. In my opinion, these are comparable to high-end highlighters because they're just so blinding. They look absolutely stunning on the skin. Beyond having just gorgeous like marble packaging, I think the shadows in here are great quality. They're pigmented, they're blendable, and they're buildable as well. You also get a nice big mirror in here, so it's good for travel. And overall, I just think this is an amazing palette. It's only $23, I believe. So I would definitely recommend this palette, and I'm keeping this one as well. And then next up, I wanted to talk about my Too Faced palettes. So I only have 2 palettes from them now because I did declutter all of my chocolate bar palettes. I only had the chocolate bar and the semi-sweet. I don't know, the quality of Too Faced eyeshadows just doesn't really do it for me. I think there's so many better formulas out there at that price point, and I don't know, it just wasn't really attracting me anymore, so I did get rid of those ones. I still have 2 palettes left from them. The first one is the Natural Love palette, and even though I don't really love the shadows in here, they're like decent quality, I keep it because the packaging is just beautiful. I mean, this is stunning. It looks amazing on the vanity, and I could not imagine getting rid of this one because I would miss it so much just because of how beautiful it looks. I know that sounds stupid, but I did spend $60 on this one, so I would feel really bad if I got rid of it. In my opinion, there's just not enough mattes in here to create a full look, even though you have 30 shades. I don't know why Too Faced wouldn't just make a few of these shades matte, so you could really just create a good cohesive look. If I was going to create a nice natural makeup look, I would go for the Carly Bible palette instead of this one. But yeah, I really wouldn't recommend this as a palette. I'm still going to use it and keep it because I've spent a ton of money on this one, and I really do like some of the shimmers in here, like Love Bug, Don't Settle, Honey Pot. These are gorgeous shades. I just think as a whole, it wasn't really worth it, but I'm still going to keep it because I spent a ton of money on it, and it does have a nice mirror. Other than that, I barely ever use this palette. I'm still going to keep it though because I would feel horrible if I got rid of it. Alright, so the next palette that I have from Too Faced is one that I actually love with all my heart. This is the Too Faced Just Peachy Mattes palette. And I did not end up picking up the Sweet Peach palette, but I think this is an amazing, amazing palette, and I think the mattes in here are just stunning. Too Faced really just knocked it out of the park with their Just Peachy collection, I think. It was just such an amazing release, and probably one of the only good things they did this year, because I was really disappointed with a lot of the stuff they did this year. But this palette's really beautiful. The formula of these is amazing, and while you do have some nice, like, poppy berry shades in here, if you cover this up, you've got a lot of really nice neutral browns. It's a very versatile palette. I like to take it traveling because it's very sturdy, you have a huge mirror, and it's just really versatile. So I really love this palette. I think the formula is amazing. I did do a video duping this palette for a $10 dupe, so I will link that above in the cards, but this is just an amazing palette. I really love this one, and it's definitely not leaving my collection anytime soon. So now I'm going to talk about my Urban Decay palettes, and I don't have a personal vendetta against Urban Decay, but I am going to be decluttering a lot of the palettes that I have from them because I don't know, I'm just like not in love with their stuff anymore. I think there's so many better eyeshadow formulas out there, and I just haven't really been falling in love with their stuff. So first of all, I want to talk about my Naked Basics palette. This is the smallest palette that I have from them. This is really good quality. I actually love this palette so much. I think the mattes in here are very blendable and pigmented. I think I'm actually going to get rid of this one though, just because I have the Tartelette Bloom, which has a lot more shade variety, and I don't know, I've just not been reaching for this one as much because whenever I want colors like this, I just go for my Tarte palette. So yeah, I think I'm going to have to get rid of this one. This will be in my Poshmark closet, so if you're interested in getting this one, I would recommend it. It's a very good quality palette, and I will have it discounted. This is a good palette, but I'm going to pass it along because I'm not going to use it a bit. I did actually declutter my Naked Smoky, which you guys know I hated that palette, and it actually did sell in my Poshmark, so that's gone. But I do still have the Naked 2, and this was in my Project Pan, but I decided to take it out just because I don't want to force myself to use a palette that I'm not completely in love with. This is not a horrible palette. I don't hate it like I do the Naked Smoky. It's actually a pretty good palette, and I think the quality is there. I'm just like not really using it. The colors in here just don't really speak to me. It's very cool toned, and it's a lot of shimmers in here. So if I'm wanting a good shimmer shade, I'm not necessarily going to reach for this palette just because I have so many other ones in my collection. And I just want to pass this along because it's not getting the use I wanted it to. Yeah, this is leaving my collection as well. It's going to be on my Poshmark, so yeah, So yeah, just getting rid of this one as well. This palette's not technically Urban Decay, but it is a dupe for the Naked 3, which would come next. So this is my Makeup Revolution Eyeconic 3 palette. And this one I bought in, I want to say May. I've used it like once. I think I swatched it a couple times and I used it only once, and I only used like 2 shades in here. So this is basically unused, and I never ever reach for this just because it is basically the same as the Naked 3 palette, and I don't have that palette. But I think the quality does line up with the other Naked palettes that I have, and while it's good, I just don't get use out of it because it's all shimmer shades. So this one I have to pass along as well just because I'm not getting any use out of it, and I don't want it to just fall to disuse in my collection when someone else could be loving it. So this is going as well. I do want to sell it as a bundle with the Naked 2 palette, so if you're interested in those 2 palettes, I will have that on my Poshmark. Right, so it looks like this is the only Naked palette that I'm actually keeping, my Naked Heat palette, which I got in July, I think. No, June. Yeah, June. So this palette is one of my favorites in my collection. It's very warm toned, and here I'll open it up so you can see the colors, but obviously it's very warm toned, and my only problem with this one is that you can only get like one look out of it because the colors are very similar, so you can only get really one distinctive look out of it, but I still love the quality of these shadows. I think they're very blendable and super pigmented, and I love that Urban Decay kind of listened to us and they were like, wow, I think we should put more mattes in our palettes, and they did. This, in my opinion, has a better balance of mattes and shimmers in here, so it's a really good palette, and I do love this one, so I'm keeping it. Yeah, it kind of feels weird to be getting rid of all my naked palettes, but this is really the only one that I ever use, and I love this one, so this is the only one that's staying. And then I'm kind of looping this in with the naked palettes because it's the same packaging and the same format. This is the Profusion Eyes palette. It's the Pro Eyeshadow Case in Smoky. And here is what the colors look like. It still has its plastic on, so I'm going to flip that down. This is what the palette looks like. Obviously it's a lot of really nice neutral shades, and you do have a nice brush in here, so I think it's a really gorgeous palette. It's unused though, and I have a lot of colors like this in my collection, so I'm going to pass this along to my mom. I think it would be a good Christmas present for her, but I don't even know where I got this. It's just a really cool palette, and I do like Profusion's eyeshadows, so this is going to go as well. Next up, this was a limited edition palette from the Oz the Great and Powerful collab. This is the Theodora palette, so I really like this palette so much, and this was one of my... I think this was actually my first ever high-end eyeshadow palette, and that makes me really, really happy to see this one because I still love this palette and the colors in here are stunning. These are actually single shadows that you can pop out, so if you're wanting to like travel with these shadows, you can just pop them out of the pans, put them in whatever you want, and just go. And I think that's really cool. I love the way they laid this out. The chocolatey brown shades up here are just stunning, and then you have some nice pops of colors and like gold as well. So this is a really beautiful palette, and you also have a huge mirror in here, so this is not going anywhere. I love this palette, and even if I didn't use it anymore, I would still keep it because like nostalgia. Alright, next up. Alright, and then my last Urban Decay palette that I still have. This is the Urban Decay. It's just like a single shadow palette where you keep your single shadows from Urban Decay. And here are the colors I have in here. I have like a nice neutral matte black here. I have like a stone kind of gray, and then I have this beautiful purple like eggplant shimmer. And this is a really good shadow formula. I don't know why this formula is not in the naked palettes, but I really like these shadows and I'm keeping this as well. I think it's just very good for travel, so I'm keeping this. Okay, so next up I want to talk about my Huda Beauty palettes, and I have two palettes from them right now. This is the Huda Beauty Mauve Obsessions palette, and I know I said in my anti-haul that I was not picking up any of these mini palettes, but I saw them in the Sephora checkout line and I was like, oh, I need to have that. So this is the Mauve Obsessions. I did briefly have the Warm Brown Obsessions, but I traded that in for the Mauve Obsessions because I just thought I would use this more often. Obviously, this is basically my favorite type of color scheme. I really love the berry shades in here and the pinks. It's just a really beautiful palette. It is quite tiny, but the pan sizes are the same as the regular Huda Beauty palettes, so definitely a really good deal. It's only $27 for 9 shades, so I think it's an amazing deal for Huda's shadows, and it's just really gorgeous. The mattes in here work really well. They're very blendable and pigmented, and then the shimmers in here are just gorgeous. I always like to use them with a wet brush, and they're just so foiled and beautiful, so really recommend this palette as well, and I'm keeping it. This palette is basically my true love because I love this so much. Probably one of my favorite palettes of the entire year. This is the Huda Beauty Desert Dust palette, and I splurged on this one. It was $65, which is very expensive for an eyeshadow palette, but nothing in comparison to my Pat McGrath palette. Anyways, this is very beautiful. I love the packaging on the outside, but the inside is really what makes this palette so special. I mean, look at these colors. This is basically my holy grail. You've got these gorgeous purple shades in here, and then you have all these warm tones. You got berries, you got reds, you got just gorgeous shades. And I really love this palette so much. I really enjoy her formula. I think the mattes in here are very pigmented and blendable, and then the shimmers are absolutely stunning. I really love the unique foiled shades. If Huda Beauty came out with a palette filled with just these like foiled shades, these duochromes and the glitters, oh my god, I would be all over that. But this is such an amazing palette. I really love the glitter down here called Cosmo. It's just so stunning. And then I love Twilight, Retrograde, everything. All these shades. I don't think there's a single shade in here that I don't like and would have swapped out. I think it's just such an amazing palette. I think she put a really good color story together, and it's just a really amazing palette. So definitely recommend this one, and it's not going anywhere. I hunted high and low for this one. It was really hard to get my hands on, and it was very expensive, so not going anywhere at all. Alright, next up, I only have one palette from this brand. It's Violet Voss, and this is the Laura Lee palette. And I'm actually getting rid of this one just because I never use this one, and I don't like the way it smells. Smell typically isn't a huge issue for me of my cosmetics. I don't mind like the Morphe palettes. I think those smell a little bit like factory made as well. But this one, it just kind of bothers me, and also I don't think it's like worth the $45 $5 if it's going to smell like horrible. And the shadows in here, they're good. They're blendable. I just never reach for this one. And I think somebody else could get a lot more use out of it. So I am getting rid of this one just because I don't reach for this and I think someone could get a lot more use out of it. I do think Laura put together a really nice color story with this one. You've got a lot of really nice, gorgeous, neutral matte shades in here. So it's a really versatile palette and I do like it, but I'm just going to have to get rid of it because I just never use this one and I think someone could get a lot more use out of it. Alright, another brand that I only have one palette from. This is Gimme, and I have their Skinny Dip Ultra Foil Shimmer Shadows. And this palette is amazing. I think calling these a shimmer shadow would be an understatement because these are basically like pure pressed glitters. They are so amazing. Once you go in with like a wet flat shader brush and just put these all over your eyelids, oh, it's so beautiful. I don't understand how this isn't like super overhyped and super talked about all the time because this is an amazing palette. Whenever I'm doing like a smoky eye and I want a nice like glittery shade to put on my eyes, I will reach for this palette all the time because it's such a beautiful palette and this is a good first introduction to Gime's products. I've never tried anything else from them, so I really like this product and it makes me want to try a lot more from Gimme. So really love my Skinny Dip palette and definitely not getting rid of it. Alright, and then yet another brand that I only have one thing from. This is Marc Jacobs and I have their Scandalust palette. So these are the Eyeconic palettes and these are the new ones that they released this summer. And I could not resist picking this one up because obviously, like, look at these shades. These are right up my alley. You've got some nice warm tones in here, got a berry shade, just everything that I love in a palette. And I love this one so much. The formula is insane, like out of this world. I haven't seen like a huge uproar about this palette because I feel like it's very expensive and it's only 7 shades, so that kind of throws people off of these, but these are amazing. Definitely don't discount these because I love this so much. This would have to definitely be in one of my like top 10 favorite formulas of all eyeshadows ever because these are just so blendable, they're very pigmented, you have such insane color payoff, and yeah, these are just beautiful palettes. So definitely want to pick up more of these Eyeconic palettes because they are one of my favorite formulas ever, and they are pricey, but in my opinion they are worth it because this is just amazing luxury makeup and it really does work. So love this palette, definitely not getting rid of it. Alright, so next up I want to talk about some of my favorite palettes in my entire collection, my Anastasia palettes. So let's get through them all. I am including my glow kits in here just because I do use those on my eyes. So I do have 2 glow kits right now, so I'm going to start with those. First up I have the Moonchild palette. I did pick this up during the, I think, VIB sale, maybe like Black Friday. This is beautiful. These are very colorful highlighters and I love using these as pops of color on my inner corner. I think these are just stunning highlights, a beautiful formula, and I really love this palette so much. I understand that these are colors that would not necessarily be in a lot of people's comfort zones, so that's why there are so many other glow kits that are more versatile in colors, but I just really like this one. It's very adventurous and it makes me kind of step out of my box. It's a really beautiful palette and I do like this one a lot. Next up I have the Anastasia Nicole Guerrero glow kit, and this came out earlier this year. This is a really gorgeous highlighter kit and I feel a little uncomfortable talking about this because it was limited edition. You cannot get this anymore, but it's just a really gorgeous highlighter kit. This was kind of around the time when everyone was getting into like pink toned highlighters, and I think this is an amazing palette. These are very glittery, just super blinding highlights, and I think I really like that on my face. And personally, I really like that kind of highlighter formula, so this is one of my favorite palettes in my entire collection, and I use this all the time on my face and on my inner corners, my cheekbones, even on my eyelids sometimes. So really gorgeous palette. I definitely recommend Anastasia's glow kits, and this is not going anywhere. Alright, so onto my Anastasia eyeshadow palettes. Master Palette by Mario, you would have to pry this out of my cold, dead hands to get this away from me because this is one of my favorite neutral palettes in my entire collection. This was very hard for me to get my hands on. I had to search like multiple stores. It was really hard to get my hands on it, but I finally did, and I love this palette so much. Obviously, if you look at it, these are very neutral shades, but that's kind of Mario's makeup style that he does on Kim. Just very nice, neutral, understated colors, and he just blends it together so beautifully. It looks amazing. So this palette is one of my favorites in my collection. I actually reach for this one when I want to do a really effortless look. I don't have time to create like a very elaborate like cut crease crazy eyeshadow look, so I just go for this one. It's neutral. It's got a lot of neutrals in here. They're very blendable. This formula is one of my favorites in my collection, and I just think this is an amazing palette. So I feel really bad that you can't get this one anymore because this is one of my favorite palettes. However, Anastasia and Mario might be coming out with a Mario collection part 2, so really excited to see what they put in that one because this is one of my favorite palettes in my collection, and I'm really sad that you can't get it anymore. If it wasn't clear already, I am keeping this one. It's not going anywhere. Alright, next up, Modern Renaissance. Again, you have to pry this from my cold dead hands because this is my favorite palette. Other than the Jaclyn Hill palette, this is probably my favorite palette in my entire collection because this is, this is everything. First of all, the packaging, I love the like pink velvet outer. It's just really gorgeous. And then the inside you have these amazing warm tone shadows. This is obviously my favorite color palette ever, and I just think these are such an amazing formula. I mean, this is everything. This is basically one of the best palettes ever created in my opinion, and I'm gushing about this because I feel that way. This is just such a beautiful palette and I love this one so much. The nice berry tone shades in here, you do have some oranges and then you have a lot of neutral browns, so you can create so many different looks with this one. It's very versatile. I love taking this traveling and it's just incomparable. Nothing can compare to this palette in my opinion because this is just on its own level. It's everything. This is the best palette ever, so I love this one so much. This is pretty much everyone's ride or die palette for a reason, and yeah, it's not going anywhere. You cannot take this from me. I love this. Alright, so everyone loved Anastasia Modern Renaissance, and Subculture had a lot to live up to, and unfortunately a lot of people hated this palette. I was not one of them. I actually did like this palette a lot. There were some problems with it. I do wish that it was the same formula as Modern Renaissance, but it's not. It's a pressed pigment formula, so these are very pigmented, and they can be a little bit difficult to work with. The color payoff of these is amazing. They are super pigmented, and if you're willing to just put a little bit of extra time in there, a little extra care, and just really work with these shadows and just find a way to use them, I think you will really be satisfied with the looks you create because these are super pigmented. They're just a gorgeous color payoff, and the color palette in here is really beautiful. So I do love this palette. I think it is a little problematic and some of the shades in here can be a little bit more difficult to work with, but I'm willing to work with it. So I do like this palette. It's not going anywhere. I know a lot of people hate this palette, so I'm not going to try to convince you guys to like it, but I do like it a lot. So yeah, not decluttering this one either. Alright, so last up in my Anastasia palettes, this one was recently released. It's the Anastasia Prism palette, and I like this one a lot as well. This was their palette for Holiday 2017, and as you can see, the colors in here are very fun. I think it was really cool that Norvina was able to just kind of play around with colors that she wanted to put in here, and not necessarily have to worry about making a really cohesive color story. I think she just threw in a lot of really fun colors, and I like this a lot. Really fun green and gorgeous blue. I like this like interesting like highlighter yellow shade in here. If you do blend it out in your eyes, it can be like more of a like lemonade yellow. So this is a really beautiful palette, and I've really enjoyed this one. I think the formula is very similar to the Modern Renaissance. So if you like the colors, I would definitely recommend this one. It's very easy to work with, and I like this one as well. Alright, so next up, I want to talk about my Tarte palettes. I have 3 right now. So first up, I have my Tartelette Tease palette. This is a very small, mini Amazonian clay eyeshadow palette. Kind of drew me in. I was in the Sephora checkout line, and that line is poison because I pick up so many things in there, and I'm just like, oh my gosh, this is so cute. It's only $20. Dangerous. But anyways, as you can see, this is a very good travel palette. You have a lot of nice neutral shades in here, and I think this is really good if you're wanting to just kind of try out Tarte's formula. I do like this a lot. I've barely used it at all just because I do have the Tartelette in Bloom, and I find that the shadows in here, you basically have all these colors in the Tartelette in Bloom. So if you already have that palette, you don't need this one unless you want a really good travel palette. But other than that, it's a really good palette. I just have to get rid of it because I already have the Tartelette in Bloom, which I'm going to talk about right now, and I don't need this one. So this is going to be in my Poshmark as well. Alright, so I've been talking about this pretty much the entire video, the Tartelette in Bloom palette. This is probably one of my favorite neutral palettes. And yeah, these colors are very natural, very neutral. I'm sorry, the packaging is very reflective, so I'm trying to like position it in a way that's not going to blind you guys. These are gorgeous shadows. The mattes in here are very blendable and very pigmented. I think it's just so good for creating a nice neutral look. And I've really been kind of leaning into that. I want to go for more neutral looks when I'm going to classes and stuff. So this is a really good palette. I've been reaching for this a lot, and I'm keeping this one because it's one of my favorite neutral palettes in my entire collection. Also, the packaging is beautiful. I think Tarte does a really good job with a lot of their packaging, and this did not disappoint me. Alright, so this palette is actually what I'm getting rid of. This is the Tarte Amazonian Clay Eye and Cheek palette. I actually got this as a birthday gift from a friend this year, and I really love my friend, but I don't really use this one just because I do have these colors in my collection already. You have like a nice big blush in here called Abstract, then you have Design, which is a nice bone neutral beige shade, and then Fame, which is a good like transition brown shade. I just barely use this though. I think it's a good palette for like a beginner, but I'm not going to really use this one. So I'm going to list this one on Poshmark as well. This will be going out of my collection as well. So that's all I have for Tarte. Next, I want to move on to basically the worst palette in my entire collection. I despise this palette. I hate it with every fiber of my being. And I don't like to say that I hate makeup products because I know that makeup companies put a lot of work into their stuff, but this palette pisses me off because this was $36, I want to say, and it's terrible. So this is the Balm Appetit palette from the Balm, and the Balm is a really cute brand. I just don't really, I'm not attracted to a lot of their stuff just because I tried this palette and I hate it. I love the little graphic. It says eat your heart out, and then you pull it down here and you have access to the pans. These colors, they're pretty. I just don't think they flow very well together. What pisses me off the most is the formula. This is a terrible formula. The 3 matte shadows up here, unpigmented, they just do not show up on your eyes at all. You have to just dig your brush in. And even then, if you dig your brush in, you'll get a lot of powder on there. You just put it on your eyes and then it's really hard to blend out. And then the shades down here, again, no pigmentation, just nothing. It's terrible. The shimmers in here, they're not awful. They're not really terrible like the mattes in here, but I don't know, this is just not a good palette. And the Balm is one of those kind of drugstore kind of high-end brands. It's like $36, but you can find it at Target. So this is an expensive palette. It's definitely not worth it, and I hate this palette so much. This is going to be in my Poshmark closet as well, just because I bought this with my own money and I need to make some of that money back. It's going to be discounted a lot, but I don't know who would buy that after I just gave it such a bad review, so getting rid of this one, no. Hate this palette. Up, I want to talk about one of my favorite brands, e.l.f. Cosmetics. I have two palettes from them, and these are the Matte for Matte palettes. So first off, I have the Matte for Matte Summer Breeze. I did a video with this and the Too Faced palette, the Just PG Mattes palette, and I compared those two because this is a really good dupe for that palette. Unfortunately, I don't really reach for this a lot, but I think it's one of the best drugstore palettes you can get. It's only $10. You get 10 shades in here. It's a really amazing deal, and these are probably the best drugstore formula of eyeshadows I could ever find. So I really like this palette a lot, and I do like the Matte for Matte palettes. But the other Matte for Matte palette that I have is the Matte for Matte Holy Smokes palette. This is a gorgeous, like kind of cool toned, but you get some like blues in here, and I think this is such a beautiful, unique palette, and it's really, really fun to use. And the blues in here are out of this world pigmented, like crazy. These are amazing, amazing shadows, and like I said, the best formula that they have at the drugstore, period. So really like these two Matte for Matte palettes. These are not going anywhere as well. Alright, and then the last palette that I have, this is in an e.l.f. packaging, but it's actually from Wet n Wild. I did depot my Comfort Zone palette, and then I put it in this little e.l.f. compact because I really hated the like plastic cheapy packaging that they had on the Wet n Wild packaging. So to like get some more use out of it, I did transfer it into this packaging, and I've been using it a lot more now. So, but who would have known that 6 Wet n Wild eyeshadows would fit so well into this little e.l.f. like powder compact? Crazy. Anyways, these are really amazing shadows. I think these are, again, some of the best formula you can find at the drugstore. I typically don't really like drugstore eyeshadows just because I've never found anything that really does compare to high-end. This is like an all shimmer palette, and my favorite shade in here is this like definer shade. It's this gorgeous like duochrome blue-green pigment. It's kind of like the MAC blue-brown pigment or the Makeup Geek one from the Mini MUA palette, but this is a really gorgeous shade, so I really like this one. All the shades in here are really beautiful, and I think they're very gorgeous shimmery shades, so definitely recommend my Wet n Wild Comfort Zone palette, and I definitely recommend depotting it and putting it into this kind of palette because it's a lot more like pleasing to use. I don't like picking up like a plasticky cheap packaging. It just doesn't feel nice to me, so I like this a lot. Alright, now let's talk Colourpop. I have a lot of palettes from them, and I have a lot of stuff to go through with you guys. So first, I'm going to talk about this one highlighter kit that I have. I do use this on my eyes. This is the Gimme More Pressed Powder Highlighter Palette, and it is very similar in colors to the Nicole Guerrero Glow Kit, so I'm actually getting rid of this one because I already have these colors, and the Nicole Guerrero one I find it to be a little better quality, but this is still very good. These are very blinding, beautiful highlights, and I'm just going to pass this along because I don't get use out of it, so this is going to be in my Poshmark closet as well. Alright, so I have a lot of their eyeshadow palettes, and I'm just going to go through the ones in order of when they were released. So this is my Yes Please palette, and I did convert this into an empty palette, so it's now a magnetic palette, and I depotted all the shades and put them in here. All the little mini pans are from the Yes Please palette, and then these two big pans here are Anastasia shadows. I just didn't really have a place for those, but I really love this palette so much. I think the quality of Colourpop's eyeshadows is top notch. These are amazing, and I think this is a really gorgeous color palette. It's good for summer. I haven't really used it recently just because these are very bright summery shades, and it's kind of the dead of winter right now. So, but this palette is a great dupe for the Natasha Denona Sunset palette. So if you're wanting a good dupe for that, this is $16. These are really amazing formula, and it's very powdery, and it does get a little bit messy. So I hate the packaging of this, but it's a really good palette nonetheless, and I really just do enjoy this one. So keeping this one. Alright, next up is the Colourpop Femme Rosa She palette with Karuchi. So this is a stunning palette. I think they did listen to all their customers' advice, and they changed the packaging of their palettes, which is really good because this is not going to get as dirty as the plain white packaging of the Yes Please palette, so that's really good. And then the colors in here, the packaging is just gorgeous. Can we just acknowledge this is beautiful? And then the colors in here are really stunning. I think this is such a romantic, gorgeous palette, and it would be really good for creating nice, soft, like Valentine's Day looks. There are 4 shimmers, 4 like glitters and then 4 matte shades in here. So you don't have a lot of variety in the matte shades. You could really only create one look with this palette, but I still think it's really beautiful, and it's only $16. So again, like I said, the formula is amazing. Colourpop really does have one of the best formulas at any affordable brand. So really like this palette and keeping this one as well. Next up is a My Little Pony palette that Colourpop did with My Little Pony, and it's really fun, like retro My Little Pony packaging. It's all rainbow. It's very fun, and the colors in here are gorgeous. I really like all these duochrome shades. It's a very fun color scheme. So I think it's a really gorgeous palette. I have used this like once or twice. The formula works really well. These are just gorgeous on the eyes, and I think this is a really nice palette as well. So keeping this one. Alright, next up is my All I See Is Magic palette. This is their Holiday 2017 palette. I really like this palette. There are 15 shades in here. You have a lot of really nice matte shades in here, so it's really easy to create a nice full look. I love this like burgundy shade here, and then you have a really nice array of shimmer shades. So this is very fun. You can create a variety of different looks with this one, and the formula again is amazing. So really like this palette as well. Definitely not getting rid of it, and I would definitely recommend it to you guys. I have to apologize if I'm like kind of slurring my words. I did just take 2 shots of NyQuil, so a little tired, but yeah, I'm gonna keep going to finish up this video. Just gotta get through this one. I'm really sick. Alright, this is from Kathleen Litz's new collection. This is the Dream Street Colourpop palette, and this is so beautiful. I love the packaging of this. It's like a rose gold marble packaging. It's really beautiful. And then the inside of the palette is stunning. Look at these colors. These are very pigmented and beautiful. I think this is probably the best formula that Colourpop has ever released in a palette. I think maybe Kathleen had a hand in creating this formula because it's just so amazing. This is better quality than all the other Colourpop palettes. Not to say those are bad, but this is just transcendent. These are amazing shadows. Color payoff of these 2 blue shades here is stunning. I love this like gorgeous like warm red here. This is just a beautiful color palette, and I think it's a nice veer away from the typical like warm brown like neutral shade palettes that we've always seen and that have been coming out like crazy. I think this is a really nice edgy break from that, and I think it's just such a stunning palette. So Colourpop did a really good job with this palette. I think Kathleen did such an amazing job with this palette, and really love this one as well. So this is not going anywhere. Definitely new to my collection, and I love this one so much. And then the last Colourpop palette that I have to show you guys is this little singles palette. These are all my favorite Colourpop singles. I did formulate this to kind of make it like a nice purple palette. So these are all Colourpop except for this one. This is an Anastasia single shadow in the shade Enchanted. So this is a really beautiful formula again. So this cost quite a bit of money to put together. I know that Colourpop's eyeshadows are very cheap. These are like $5 a pan, but if you buy like 8 of them at a time, it does add up. Alright, so I'm going to go through all the shades in here. I have Silver Lining, Too Much, Sidetracked, Glass Bowl, Get Out, Pinky Promise. Champagne here is called High Strung, Little Boat, and then this one is called Take It Slow. So Take It Slow is one of my favorite like brow bone highlights. Gorgeous. Glass Bowls are really fun duochrome. I love all the purples in here. The reds in here are gorgeous. This is just one of my favorite palettes ever. So everything in here is Colourpop besides this one Anastasia shadow, and these are so amazing. I love this palette so much. And yeah, love Colourpop's eyeshadows a lot. Alright, so we are now in the home stretch. These are the last few palettes that I have to mention, and I saved all my luxurious, super high-end, expensive luxury brands for last. So we're gonna go through those right now. I have the only non-cruelty-free thing I have left in my collection. That's an eyeshadow. This is Shiseido. It is a gorgeous luminizing satin eye color trio in the shade Ombre du Eclat Trio. So this is a gorgeous like purple palette, and I still keep this one because these are some of the best purples that I've ever tried. I did buy this obviously before I went cruelty free, so I would not have bought this anytime recently, and I'm definitely not going to repurchase this one, but these are some of the best purples I've ever tried. I know that purple eyeshadows like these ones are very hard to formulate. They're pretty difficult to formulate a good nice purple eyeshadow and not have it like be patchy or unpigmented, but these are amazing, and I'm going to keep this one just because I don't have any purples that perform like this one, but I never purchase anything from a non-cruelty free brand anymore, and definitely not repurchasing this one. I am going to keep it though, so. Alright, next up I have my eyeshadow palette from Charlotte Tilbury. This is the Vintage Vamp Luxury Palette. So this is a tiny little quad. It's 50 British pounds. It's pretty expensive. This is insanely expensive, but the shadows in here are gorgeous. It's a very nice reflective packaging, and it just feels so luxurious and very bougie. You get 2 like kind of matte satiny shades in here, so you get like a nice neutral matte brown and then kind of like a burgundy reddish brown. These are very beautiful, like pigmented, blendable, just everything you would want in an eyeshadow, so I like those 2 a lot. And then you have 2 shimmer shades in here. So this pink one up here reminds me a lot of Anastasia's Pink Champagne shade, so that's a really gorgeous shade. And then this gold one down here, it's kind of like a shadow topper. It's not super opaque or anything, so you just kind of want to like rub your finger around in it and just pat this on top of any shadow, and it's just absolutely gorgeous. So this is hella expensive. I think honestly it's not really worth it because you do get only 4 shades in here, but it is a really nice palette. I'm glad that I have this one and I do reach for it a lot. So gorgeous palette, super expensive. I have 2 Becca palettes, and this one is a face palette, but I do use this on my eyes from time to time. This is the Becca Jaclyn Hill Champagne Pop Collection palette, and this is amazing. I love this so much. I use this basically every day. The blushes in here are gorgeous. It's very reflective packaging, so don't mind that. The blushes are gorgeous. The highlighters are one of the best formulas I've ever tried. I think Becca just creates this amazing, like, soft, beautiful, like, blinding highlight, but it's not super glittery on the face. It doesn't emphasize texture. It's just gorgeous. So you have Champagne Pop. So you have Champagne Pop, you have Prosecco Pop, and then you have, on the top, you have Rosé Spritz, Amaretto, and then Pamplemousse. So these are beautiful blushes and beautiful formula. I love this palette so much. And then, like my Anastasia palettes, you will have to pry this out of my cold, dead hands to get this away from me. This is not going anywhere. Alright, so next up I have the Becca Après Ski palette. This is the Eyelights palette, and I do use this as an eyeshadow palette and a high face palette. So you get 7 shimmery eyeshadows in here, but they are like very big pans, so you can use these as highlighters. This kind of reminds me of the Becca Afterglow palette. They're like tiny pans of highlighters and a lot of Becca's most famous colors. So this is really gorgeous. A lot of people have given this a really bad review. A lot of people don't really like this palette. I don't know why, because these are amazing. These are the same formula as Becca's highlighters, so these are basically like a sampler of Becca's most famous shades. So you have Pearl, Opal, Moonstone, Topaz, Rose Quartz, Hot Cocoa, and Toasted Marshmallow, and these are gorgeous shades. So I definitely recommend this one. I think these are amazing quality, just gorgeous, and I really like the packaging as well. You get this like nice icicle pattern, and it's gold and reflective. It's just so stunning. So this is a beautiful palette. I do like this one and keeping it. I have 2 palettes from Natasha Denona. This is one of the most expensive brands, and this is a beautiful palette. Alright, so this is the eyeshadow palette 5 and palette 04. I think these are some of the best shimmer shades I've ever worked with. These are very foiled, just gorgeous, super pigmented, easy to pick up. They're soft, they're blendable, they're amazing. And then the matte, and then you do get 1 matte brown in here. It's a really gorgeous shade, and these are really good palettes. I do not like the cheap like plastic packaging, and I think it just doesn't really fit the luxury aesthetic of the brand. So I am glad that they changed it around and they created like a more luxurious packaging from their holiday palettes. This is their holiday eyeshadow palette 5 in the shade Joya. And this is stunning. I mean, the packaging is amazing. It's gold, reflective, and then the shades in here are beautiful. You get a really nice yellow gold, and then these berry shades, rose gold. These are beautiful palettes. So I really do enjoy these ones. I'm keeping both of these because Natasha Denona is very dear to my heart, and I just love these palettes so much. So these are both staying as well. Next up, I have a Viseart palette. This is the Petite Pro. I did get rid of my Viseart Theory palette in Minx just because I wasn't really using it often. But this one I'm keeping because I do want to have something from Viseart in my collection. And this little palette here is $30, so very expensive. Viseart's obviously a very premium brand. But honestly, the eyeshadows are very good quality. They're very blendable. They're very pigmented. I just don't think it's worth it, you know, because there are so many amazing eyeshadow formulas like Anastasia where you can get so many more shadows at the same price. They're amazing quality, and I know these are formulated for pro makeup artists, so it's a little bit more premium and more expensive. It's not worth it in my opinion. I don't know. It's very expensive and crazy, and if you're wanting to spend your money on really high quality eyeshadow palettes, I guess go for these ones. I do like this palette though, so I am keeping it in my collection. I just probably not going to buy anything else from Viseart unless I see something that really like catches my attention. Alright, last but not least, this is the most expensive palette in my entire collection. This is my baby. This is my Pat McGrath Mothership palette. It's super heavy, it's very luxurious, it's very high-end. You can tell by the weight of this palette that it's super expensive. This feels like a gold block, and it should because this was $125. Crazy. But this is just so beautiful. I am wearing this on my eyes today. I just reach for this whenever I want really amazing blendable mattes, just the most foiled beautiful shimmers ever. This gold in here is everything. The shimmers are beautiful. I love like the mirror in here. This is just such an amazing palette. It's super expensive and super high-end, but I think the quality is there. Pat McGrath is amazing. I just really wanted to support her. She's an iconic makeup artist, and I really wanted to support her company, so I love Pat McGrath. I did buy this palette. It's super expensive, but I love her products, and I think she does a really amazing job. So this is one of my favorite palettes in my entire collection. Again, you would have to pry this out of my cold dead hands. This is not going anywhere. I love this so much, and yeah, Pat McGrath is amazing. On that note, my eyeshadow palette collection video is over, so I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I did declutter a pretty good amount of palettes. I wouldn't say this was a huge declutter, so I'm probably just gonna put like mini declutter in my title, but this was still a really good, fun video to film, and I hope you guys enjoyed it. So if you did, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe down below, let me know in the comments what your favorite eyeshadow palettes are, because I really want to try out what you guys recommend. So yeah. If you made it to the very end of this video, thank you so much for watching my channel. I love you so much.